I want to share with you too that Florida Hospital, the representative Mark Martin from Florida Hospital, he couldn't be here. He actually has another board meeting going on at the same time, so he wasn't able to be here. So I just wanted to state that, and he worked closely with Mr. Brown, or Larry Brown's office, based on what he heard from the last board meeting. He heard you loud and clear, so he worked with Larry closely on implementing some changes I think that we'll be happy with. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Dr. Tufam to actually discuss what those changes are.
Okay, so one of the concerns at the last board meeting was regarding section 1.5, and
What page you on? Or we have the same?
This is
I don't have to.
I'm going to get you there.
I found it. Page 7.
Five.
Well, this one first.
Oh, is it 1.5?
1.15.
Sorry.
Page 5.
Okay.
Page 5.
Page 5.
Okay, I have the same page.
We'll share.
Basically, at the last meeting, because originally in the agreement it said that within a year after the opening of the clinic, that we would start discussions about getting a specialist in. And at that point in time, some of the board members were concerned because they wanted to be able to just get specialists in. If the school board wants a specialist, then we should be able to get a specialist in because it is our clinic. So I have gone back and Florida Hospital has agreed, and we've revised the agreement so that if you make the request, they will provide the specialist, whatever the specialist is, and we're going to give them a 6-month time frame to find the specialist. If they cannot find a specialist, then we would then have, at our sole discretion, go and find our own specialist, and then at that point in time, we'll let Florida Hospital sign an agreement with that doctor to provide the services. That way they can do all the billing and everything like that to keep track for data analytics purposes and for us to track to see cost savings.
Good.
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 That works.
Okay. Yep.
The other section is section 15, and that has to do with
I'll read you there.
The
Page
non-compete.
22 of 33.
And for that, Florida Hospital has agreed to take that out completely.
That's
There you
the,
go.
Which one was
The
it?
non-compete.
I think in the spirit of cooperation and developing a long-term partnership, this is very well.
Mhm. So, but that was the only 2 additional changes which addressed the concerns of the board members.
well, I got a question on the, and I'm not sure where it comes in, is the, term I'm looking for.
Management fee?
Was it the fees?
Yeah, the fees, what's the?
Administrative fees?
The,
Or trade secret?
yeah, the trade secrets, is that in here? Where is that?
The trade secret provision?
Yes.
Yes, there is a trade secret provision. It is section. We got this memorized.
Page 18?
Yes, section
Yes.
9, page 18.
I mean, I'm happy with the other 2 changes we have, but somewhere I guess I totally missed this piece. It wasn't in our RFP, and I have a problem with fees being a trade secret. I think we're a public entity. I think we're governed by government under the sunshine. I've read which Larry and I have gone back and forth, I've read the section, the 2 statutes, the 815, and to me that was really referring to software and the computer type stuff. And it refers back to, I think it's 812, where it lists out 50 or 75 very specific things that are subject to it. Fees are nowhere, in my reading of it, fees are not in there at all. You know, when you start talking about it's a felony if we let one of these, let a trade secret out. We've sat here with their trade secret on the screen in public meetings. And we've shared it with other people in the community already. I don't know where this kind of came from or how it came about, but it wasn't in our RFP, and I don't think, I'm not comfortable. I mean, we share Schickel Schultz's cost, we share Clancy Thay's cost if they build a building, we share the cost of our milk, we share, I mean, it's all public, and I don't know how. The cure to the common cold is a trade secret. This is, I don't think the fees are a trade secret. Larry, I don't know if you want to add.
Go ahead.
I can just add my little 2 cents and then Larry can add. But how this started out was because in pretty much all of these types of agreement for clinic management, this description of what a trade secret is very standard in all of those agreements, from CARE ACT to everyone that, like other public entities that has entered into contracts. They have given me samples of the agreement, and this is the standard language that they use. In reading this, we felt that the description of what a trade secret was way too broad, and it would be very hard for an employee to look at all the information that we're getting related to Florida Hospital and decide, is this a trade secret or is it not? So in that spirit, and in taking all of the liability away from the school board, what we thought would be most efficient was to have them just clearly mark what all they think is considered a trade secret, let them decide. But then I put an indemnification clause on the bottom to say that if you say it's a trade secret, it turns out it's not a trade secret, you are indemnifying us for all of this, versus having us make the determination, and then if it turns out that it was a trade secret, then we would have to defend ourselves.
Can I ask some
So that was-
clarification relative to that? So, in the event that, at a workshop, at a board meeting, some public forum, a discussion comes up, maybe instigated by Florida Hospital, maybe instigated by us or whomever, about relative to fees, and it comes out what the fees are and what they're based on, does that mean that we're in violation of this? You know, it's unintentional, we're not trying to undermine anybody.
They may take that position. They have made it very clear in written communication that the fees are trade secret in their estimation. I understand the arguments both ways. Let me tell you what the history very, very briefly. Todd and Ken were well underway in the negotiations, and they came to me, I think 2 came to me with about 5 or 6 issues that were sort of at impasse. So I attended a meeting to try and we got through most of the hurdles. They were insisting on the school district keeping as confidential proprietary information. So what I had to explain to them was that under because they're experts at their types of contracts, they don't know 119. So I said under 119 there has to be a specific statutory exemption, and there is no statutory exemption for proprietary information, which is as they defined it, which is pretty darn common if you look at franchise agreements and licenses of all types. I mean, it's pretty common, not just medical. And so I said there is no exemption for proprietary, but what there is a trade secret exemption in 815. And you can tell us what you claim to be trade secret, you hold us harmless and indemnify us, and that is a fairly common approach in government contracting, where we don't scrutinize too heavily what they claim is a trade secret, as long as it could be at all plausibly within a very broad definition of what is or is not a trade secret, because the consequences of leaking a trade secret are pretty dire under the Uniform Trade Secret Protections Act and under 815 and 812, et cetera. So I hear what Mr. Thacker says. I don't disagree with a lot of his logic and arguments. I would say that Florida Hospital would probably say they're in a very competitive market and they prefer their pricing not be out there. I can say that in the city of Winter Park, which is an electric utility distributor with the municipal utility, it purchases power from private providers like Duke and Progress Energy, and they claim that what they sell power to the city of Winter Park is a trade secret, and they redact it out. And I'm sure there are other anecdotes to the contrary, and I'm sure other government lawyers don't do it that way, but the way we elected to do it is to, they're pushing for a proprietary exception, which wouldn't be proper, because we can't say we're going to keep proprietary information confidential because there is no statutory exemption for proprietary information. why don't you do it this way? So we suggested trade secret late in the negotiations. Now, keep in mind, that's after the RFP has been issued, it's after they
It was not in
respond.
our RFP that they responded to, right?
Yeah, right. And it was late in the game, but they did come back in the contract negotiations saying they wanted proprietary information to be treated as confidential. And so late in the game, we agreed that it would be reasonable to give them a trade secret exemption because they're entitled to that under the law. I would only say, I'm trying to be somewhat practical here and not being the adjudicator of this issue. Practical is, do you have a contract or not? If you have a contract, keep in mind, no one has demanded public records seeking the redacted information. That's when you actually have to make a decision, and the law says you can take the document, provide it in camera to the court, and say, Judge, they've asked for this to be trade secret. See, we've got all the emails where they've said that. Here's the contract without redaction. Your Honor, you tell us. That's what you do if you get a demand for records and you can't wait for an Attorney General opinion. You can also go to the Attorney General, lay it out, and say, is it a trade secret or not? And I think the AG may well come back and say it's not, which frankly would be to the dismay of Progress Energy and Duke and other companies that like keeping their pricing out of the public eye. I think the Florida hospital people would tell you that they really want to do this deal. I mean, I had good conversations with them over the weekend. They're being fairly aggressive, and they just don't want their pricing out there if there's a lawful way to keep it out there.
Clarence, to your point, I mean, I think that it's kind of weird, but at the same time, you know, I think that they've been.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the logic, Mr.
Right,
Thacker.
they've been cooperative, and we're not in their shoes, and at the same time, any negotiation, typically there's gonna be some compromise, where somebody doesn't get something they want, you don't get something you want. I think that this will end up servicing, I look at our employees, I think this will be good for our employees. Now,
Absolutely.
do I think that you've got a point to make with this? Absolutely. But at the same time, I think we are where we are, and I think that this is I think this is a good agreement for us. We got the non-compete out. That was the big thing.
What do we do with the fact that the Sheriff's Department has copies of this stuff?
That came out before they asserted a trade secret
I
exemption.
understand.
My question goes towards.
We're not gonna have to go to court and prove that at some point, are we?
I hope not, but if it would be pretty easy to prove, because we know, we have a diary what day I showed up at a negotiation where for the first time I said, guess what, guys, there is no proprietary exemption, you can do a trade secret. That was like late in the contract negotiations, after all this stuff had come
Why?
out.
All right, so even if we could be in agreement that, and we could agree with Florida Hospital in their position that they want this information to be confidential. Why is invoking the Trade Secret Act the least restrictive way to accomplish that goal? Why couldn't we just contract confidential agreement, maintain that, and then if it comes under the state action under the 119 challenge, deal with it that way? Why do we have to risk the district to criminal sanctions and federal sanctions when we can just simply do it by state?
No. If it is, whatever is a trade secret, if it's in your possession and you give it up pursuant to a public records demand, you've committed a felony regardless. So in other words, we haven't created liability. We're trying to come up with a very, to the contrary, we're using a procedure that I've used before in similar situations where you're guaranteed to not have that risk. We're staying way on the safe side of the cliff because you tell us what you claim to be a trade secret, we'll keep that confidential. Now, if you get overly aggressive and claim the moon is trade secret, to Clarence's point, you're going to also hold us harmless and indemnify us in the event we're sued by a party demanding public records. That's
All right, so
I think it's a very safe, cautious
All right.
approach versus. Now, Clarence's point is, Jay's making the pragmatic argument that I was being pragmatic. Clarence's point, I think, is you're a government entity and everyone here embraces transparency and the open government laws, good, bad, and indifferent though they may be. If the contract is in place and everybody's operating great, at that point, in the next 60 days maybe, you go to them, you say, look, we have a concern that we may be not in the full spirit of public records by treating your fees as trade secrets. Will you modify the agreement by taking away that statement? And if they say no, then you have the option of seeking an attorney general opinion. And I think I really do think the greater weight of the argument is in favor of the finding that the mere cost of something is not a trade secret. I believe that's the better argument, but I deal with this a lot for a lot of different entities. I typically don't want to get into the business of deciding what is or is not a trade secret, because you can't predict what a judge is going to say with 100%, bless you, accuracy. And the consequences, if you read that, I mean, you don't want to run afoul by giving away trade secrets, because the legislature, when they enacted 8/15/045, they say, given the fact that it's a felony to give up a trade secret, we need to create an exemption. That's like a glitch bill almost. We realize we've got public employees in possession of trade secrets, and we've also created a felony offense if you give up a trade secret, and we've put public employees in the position of having to promptly turn over everything in their possession unless there's a specific statutory exemption. So as a consequence, we put people in an untenable position. We're hereby creating this exemption for trade secrets. That's to me, hopefully that it's not the substantive issue that seemed to be hanging up the board on this contract.
Now, let me just ask you, we get ready to buy 10 more school buses from Bluebird or International, wherever we buy them from. Can Bluebird now say our pricing is a trade secret, so you can never share that?
Well, first of all, you have to look at what is the procurement statute you're operating under. This is not under CC&A, nor is it under a hard competitive bid, okay? If you look at hard bids, and if you look at CC&A, RFPs for certain types of professional services, and if you look at the auditor selection process, that's another example where you have a specific statutory procedure. Those laws, they fall within a different provision of 119, and it says once you've had a procurement, for 30 days after the documents are submitted, it's confidential, but then once you announce the results or publish the results, or 30 days elapses, whichever comes first, it becomes public. And there's a provision where you can extend that for a year if you reject all bids and rebid it, but you only have a year to do that. Okay, so that's a more specific set of laws that govern the general rule. So that's why I believe a lot of these contexts you're thinking of would fall within more of a hard bid or a CC&A process, which has a separate set of rules. But I don't disagree with you, Mr. Thacker. I've personally seen companies treat because they think they don't want their competitors to know if they can avoid it.
Who would want them to know?
Of course. Your point's well taken.
Any business.
So I've seen people claim trade secret, whether the Attorney General, if presented with this specific question, would agree with them or not. I frankly doubt it. I think I can almost see what they're going to say, or what a court would say. They're going to say government in the sunshine is a paramount value in Florida, and unless it's really a trade secret, you can't claim it.
As an academic point, the amount may not be, but maybe the process how they got there would probably
procedure of how they can run their clinic cheaper or whatever. I think that is a trade secret.
Or how they came up with the number.
Compilations,
processes,
right?
designs,
but the actual
techniques.
number, they want to protect the number as well for competitive reasons. I don't know. I agree. I think that Mr. Brown explained it very well. At least I understood it, and it was pretty clear to me.
And there are other contexts, economic development. You're probably aware, like if you have like an economic development agency for a county or a city, they can exempt what they're doing for a prospect, and they can exempt certain numbers the prospect
There's a time frame on that.
for 1 year. For 1 year, that's right. And so, yeah, these people they're claiming the right to keep it exempt, frankly, forever. So if that's something the board really has a hard time with, I mean, look, obviously we were all prepared to live with Section 15 on the non-compete because we presented it to you. But a majority of you said you don't want that policy in the contract, and they took it out. So if you, in the same spirit, if if it bothers you, if 3 of you tell me to get an Attorney General opinion, we'll do it. It's within the retainer, it's no additional fees. Happy to do it, and we're also happy to ask them, once a contract is in place, if they would, modify that.
My biggest issue is if we get sued by somebody, because because they say we have to give that to them, we say, no, we can't, because it's a trade secret. If we get sued.
They hold us harmless and indemnify the board.
Right, we got no financial exposure.
Right, you don't, and they're certainly a financially capable entity.
So to your point.
I got that piece, and I really don't want to have to go visit Ken and Stark.
I agree.
Ken's going to start.
They got a good barbecue place, so that's fine.
I mean, we don't need to discuss it, I just.
It's a very interesting, it's a very interesting question, it's a very interesting issue. I was just being really pragmatic, that they,
Did I hear you say that even if we were to approve this contract, even after that, you could seek the Attorney General
oh,
opinion?
yes. Because we would not be able, if we had an Attorney General's opinion telling the district that their cost is not a public record, it's not trade secret exempt material, we would have to abide by 119 regardless of what the contract says.
And that wouldn't really change the rest of the contract. That's severable.
It is very severable. That's a good point.
Mr. Thacker, does that address your concerns, and then going forward, the AG opinion on that? Or no?
Yeah, and I'm actually fine if I don't know what the board thinks about going ahead and getting an attorney, moving forward with the contract, getting an attorney.
Sure.
Mainly because when the next person comes in and says, well, you gave Florida Hospital a trade secret on their pricing, why do you need to share?
Actually, maybe
I'd
an issue,
like to be able
maybe
to-
an issue we could resolve for future contracts.
Certainly.
Well, when somebody says it, if we have the opinion, and maybe the opinion said it is a trade secret, we go, okay, everybody, it's a trade
You
secret.
get it, so you know what it says.
So we can say,
Yep.
I think it's good. It's good catch on your part.
Thank you, Larry.
So you're
Very
good?
interesting. You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and where I was
Where you
trying
going?
to hide.
Ken, anything additional we need to cover?
Those were the
Board, anything additional you need to cover?
No.
I'm ready to vote for it.
what do y'all need from us?
We'll be
Yeah.
going to the regular meeting.
Yeah, that's what I want to share,
Right.
if you allow me. We just revised the contract based on what came out over the weekend with the conversation between Larry and Mark Martin with Florida Hospital. So that is in the new contract that is presented to you tonight in front of you. That's what we're going to be coming forth to this board meeting
Right.
tonight for you to approve, if you so wish.
Yep.
And then I just want to make a comment too, that this contract, I can't thank enough for Dr. Tufam for her help and assistance in putting together this contract for the school district. I felt it was this amazing job. Ken, and of course Eric Scott. Eric Scott was with Gallagher Benefit Services. A lot of guidance on making this come to fruition for the school district. So I can't thank this team enough.
Lauren, too.
And I'm sorry, Lauren. I'm
Don't
sorry,
forget
Lauren.
Team effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lauren.
Well, I'd just like to say I look forward to getting this
So we can move
running.
on.
I think it's going to be great for our employees, and I'm happy that we're working with Florida Hospital, and I'm glad they made these changes for us.
Agreed.
So they
Good.
know.
So nothing additional? Okay, so we'll adjourn at this time then.
Thank you.
40 minutes. 40 minutes.